Coming off the commercial success of 1987's Electric, the Cult was about to go to the next level. Their follow-up 1989 Sonic Temple would prove to be the Cult's most commercially successful album and created 4 top 20 songs on the mainstream rock charts. Yet, it was produced in entirely different circumstances than its predecessor was. For Electric, the band opted to re-record their original tracks because, according to them, it sounded too similar to their previous record, 1985's Love. The band wanted a more stripped-down, no-nonsense sound, so they enlisted an up-and-coming producer named Rick Rubin. In a 2019 interview with Loudwire, guitarist Billy Duffy talked about how challenging Electric was for the band to make, saying, "The album wasn't where we wanted to be, so when Rick Rubin came in, he was the straw that we were clutching at. We left some of the uniqueness of the Cult behind, and Electric was part of the stuff." You could say that Sonic Temple was a bit of a homecoming for the band, and an even deeper dive into frontman Ian Astbury's metaphysical inclinations. Although Astbury is British, he spent some time being brought up in eastern Canada, in the province of Ontario. As a boy, he visited one of the local Indigenous reserves, and it's a memory he's come back to time and time again. The exact location was the Six Nations of the Grand River in southern Ontario, and musically he was also a big fan of David Bowie. With Sonic Temple, the band remained as eclectic as ever, if not in their musical style, then with the topics of these songs, covering things from teenagers in France to one of Andy Warhol's Factory Girls to the theme of the powerful yet unattainable women. There seems to be a feeling of longing throughout the album, whether that's for the past that doesn't exist anymore, or for a beautiful woman who is out of reach or is even passed on. Sonic Temple would be recorded in Vancouver, Canada, with Canadian producer Bob Rock. And Ian felt a kinship with Bob because they both had Canadian roots, and he thought Bob would better understand the nuances of British rock than an American producer would. The album's name would come from the bonus track Medicine Train, which features the lyric Sonic Temple. It was clear that the band wasn't entirely happy with how Electric had come out, given such a drastic change in both the producer and the studio location. But the band also had another goal in mind, becoming more established in America, with Duffy telling Louder Sound, "I was very focused, personally bound and determined that the Cult should have a platinum album in America." Sonic Temple would feature a handful of iconic songs, including Fire Woman, Edie Chow Baby, and Sweet Soul Sister. Fire Woman was about the universal symbol of femme fatale, but also influenced by Ian Astbury's fascination with Indigenous culture. While Sweet Soul Sister was written in Paris and was an observation of the Americanization of the youth in Europe, Edie Chow Baby was about Edie Sedgwick, a socialite who formed part of artist Andy Warhol's factory scene in New York City in the 60s, who would die due to an overdose in her 20s. But by Billy Duffy's own admission, that song would underperform, as he would tell Louder Sound. "I don't know what happened with that song. I really thought it would do more. A lot of bands like Whitesnake and Def Leppard were turning down their guitars and turning up their keyboards and getting poppier around then though, and that's not what that was." When it came time to tour the album, the Cult wanted to establish themselves as mainstream in America, and they had 2 options. They could either tour with Metallica or Black Sabbath. In a 2019 interview with Loudwire, guitarist Billy Duffy explained how they chose which band to open for, saying, "We thought Ozzy's crowd would be very Sabbath, Ozzy-centric, while Metallica were a young band, same age as us, and we know they're heavy, but it was an interesting tour. I went to see places in America I've never been back to since and had a lot of fun. But that was a tough one because it was the old Metallica, the pre-Black Album Metallica." As the band was about to hit the road, they had a new drummer join the group, as Mickey Curry, who played on Sonic Temple, would depart the band, and would be replaced by future Guns N' Roses drummer Matt Sorum. Sorum would recall in his book how he changed his appearance ahead of the audition to blend in with the group. He would also reveal in his book how during his first audition with the Cult, he brought along his double bass since he had previously lost an opportunity to play with David Lee Roth since he couldn't play double bass. He would end up getting the gig, but Duffy would offer one piece of advice to the up-and-coming drummer, revealing in his book, "You've got the gig, but stop smiling so much." Even though the band was at the peak of their commercial success, things weren't great behind the scenes. Astbury was overweight and struggling with alcohol, and some nights his voice was so bad that he needed Matt Sorum to fill in positions of songs for him. In a 2019 interview with Global News Online, Astbury talked about the cracks that were forming in the band, saying, "After Sonic Temple, the band was beginning to implode. The pressures of doing it so long, the wear and tear on the road, the pressure to create another record was all there. We should have taken a break, but we went straight into Ceremony in 1991. In 2019, they set out on a 30th anniversary tour of Sonic Temple,